Here we are once again, The Real Dirt with Chip Baker, and I'm so excited about today's episode because today it's the real dirt on shrooms. Yeah, that's right. We're going to find everything out about legal mushrooms or decriminalized mushrooms here that's in the U.S. It's going on all over Denver, Oakland, Eugene, Portland, I don't know, Seattle. I'm just making stuff up now. But you know who's not making stuff up? Is Josh Kappel, my great friend. Say hey, Josh.
What's up, Chip? How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I'm glad we finally got to chat about this. I got stoned and I missed our last call.
It's fair.
Fair, it's fair. So those of you who don't know Josh is a partner at one of the leading cannabis law firm in the world. That's right, Vicente Sederberg. Josh has been, with them since the very, very beginning. And we have had so many stimulating conversations and done such great work with Vicente and you, Josh, specifically. I wanted to have you on my show for a while, and you stopped blowing me off since COVID's here, and you got some extra time. So thanks for joining me, Josh.
Chip, thanks for having me. You're absolutely right. I ran out of excuses ever since COVID because, hey, I've only been in one spot, really.
Well, I know, man. You like, you're in LA half the time. It seems like you're in the airplane the other half the time, and then you've been in, trying to live your life in Denver, right?
Yeah, it's really amazing how much time you have when you don't travel once a week. It's quite wild.
I know, it's nuts, man. When was the last time you got in an airplane, Josh?
Oh man. I came back from Costa Rica in February. Might have came back with the virus. Maybe not. But that was the last hurrah for me.
Yeah. I did some traveling in late January, and I think I had a lot of those COVID symptoms, that's for sure. But who knows? I'm looking for the antibody test. As soon as I have that, I'm going to go get it because I think I got it, back in February.
I think
January.
I got it too.
Mm-hmm. Man, the fever, the I thought it was different. It felt different. It kept getting worse and worse. The cough, the raspiness. But what they're not talking about is Chip's cure, because, well, I can't even say what my cure is, but it involves like 4-inch long, pure cannabis joints. Right.
These statements haven't been evaluated by the FDA.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't listen to me or the president for medical advice. That's all I'm saying. Right?
Fair. It's fair.
Yeah. So, gosh, I know you guys do all this work with cannabis, whether it's hemp or ganja or medical marijuana or adult use or recreational use or limited licenses. But man, just kind of like psilocybin, it's kind of a side hustle for you, so to speak. Some of the side interest, right?
A little side interest, yeah.
Side interest. That side interest, and the way you've been growing that beard over the past couple of months, it looks like you may have, been having a lot of interest in mushrooms.
It was an interesting time in Costa Rica. But Chip, we've always cared about all the drugs at Vicente Sederberg. We've just only really.
Oh, I know you do.
We've only been able to build a law practice around the cannabis ones. But it's like the war on drugs is it's always been a failure, and granted, so we had a nice conversation about like which drugs should be legal or how they should be legal, and should it be prescribed by a doctor or given to you at church or just picked up at the corner store. you know, overall, there's like probably something that's happened to all the drugs besides arresting people for
Oh yeah, absolutely. Man, I mean, I don't know. I've had a really open mind about all drug use, and I can understand what drug abuse is. And people can, not that I recommend it, but people can pretty much do whatever they want and not become a drug addict overnight. And that's something that the war on drugs really like, you know, take, you know, says is that's like, oh, you can do this drug and you're gonna, become a drug addict, or you're gonna be a worthless, person in society. And it might not be. I might not want to hang out with tweakers, but if that's what they want to do, man, that's on them. Sorry if I'm offending any tweakers out there that are listening to the real dirt. You don't have to. But it's not like it's their responsibility. It's not mine.
Yeah. And sometimes, just sometimes, you can have an experience with some drugs and it'll change your life forever for the better.
Absolutely.
Like mushrooms.
Like mushrooms. So mushrooms are harmless. Mushrooms are great. Everybody should try it. It's a soft drug.
You know, it's interesting. It was like the first time I ever used mushrooms.
Hold on, let me make sure we're recording.
I was a young high school student, and I was camping, and we all ate some mushrooms. We thought it'd be fun, and next thing I know, I'm floating down the river on my back, staring at the moon, talking to God, and my whole life was changed. You know, from that moment on, I was like, there's something different about this world than what I was taught. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
There's something different out there. And it forever sort of like put me on this path of like, what is it? What's in our consciousness? What's behind all of this? Now, don't get me wrong, as an attorney, I have to say you should not do mushrooms. They're illegal. They're not harmless. But I'm saying I had an experience.
They're totally harmless. I don't play an attorney on TV or anything. No, I've seen mushrooms not like be great for everybody, but in general, they are eye-opening. They definitely make you think about things a little bit differently. And I mean, Terrence McKenna in his book Archaea Revival, he postulates that our early human brain developed through mind expansion because of eating mushrooms. We able to eat mushrooms and have this secondary thought, to be able to have this vision of like how we were gonna do something or make something, right? Because that's what it takes, is you have to be able to visualize like the wheel or a fire or a weapon or a stone or a knife or a legal defense for someone. You have to visualize it first, and that's what mushrooms gave us, or so Terrence McKenna says.
It just lights up those different synapses and creates more connections. But hey, I'm not the scientist around here.
I'm not a doctor or anything, but it makes me feel good. It really makes me feel good. So I grew up with mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with mushrooms. They were readily available. You could pick them in the Southeast, in cow fields. Growing up, it was still like no fungicides used in grains, and they didn't really spray fungicides on the fields. And grass-fed cows, you could still pick these mushrooms. Right, when I was a kid, now it's still going on, but it's because of fungicides, it's not as prevalent as it used to be. But they were, mushrooms were the thing that we could get before weed or alcohol, right? And they were 6 months out of the year you could pick them, right?
They're just right there. No,
they're just right there.
ID.
Yeah, go get a book from the library and be like, oh, mushroom ID. Oh, that's it. That's the one. Yeah.
Man, I've always been terrified about like picking the wrong ones, but
there's nothing like picking mushrooms in the wild and consuming them, both psilocybin ones and just edible mushrooms. We have picked morels, chanterelles, maitake, shiitake, cyanesis, psilocybin. We've picked some mushrooms. So is it legal, Josh? Tell me what's going on. People are asking me, right? They're talking to themselves. They're like, is this legal?
Is this legal? And it's like, it depends, you know? So what happened, Chip, is, I was in my normal day job just trying to make weed more legal and get people licenses. And some passionate group of people here in Denver approached us and said, hey, we want to decriminalize psilocybin. Help us do it. And me and Courtney Barnes in our office thought about it for a half a second and hell, why not?
Okay.
And we helped them put together this measure because we wrote so many, we wrote a lot of ballot measures over our years legalized. We're like, hey, we can do one for psilocybin.
I'm going to stop you here, Josh. And for those of you who don't know, Josh is key in legalizing medical marijuana, adult use marijuana in your state. No matter what state it is, Josh is there helping you guys behind the scenes. He is a true cultural hero, and he really made it happen. He started it with the rest of the crew at Vicente Sederberg in Denver. But he has helped states write policy. He has helped cannabis growers get licenses. When you just say, oh, we just write some policy or we just decided to write a bill, it's not quite like that. Josh is a superhero. Pause. Everyone clap. Clap, clap. And now, after he has helped legalize weed throughout the country, he is now helping to bring mushrooms to you as well. Thanks, Josh. Wow, you're great, man.
Thanks, Chip. But our team has done a lot. It's not just me. We have a very great team of people.
No, hey, there's no I in team, man.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
But the psilocybin measure, this didn't come from us. It's Kevin Matthews, the guys at Spore. They're the real heroes there. They just came to us and said, well, how do we write the law? And so what we did is we pulled a page from our old playbook of the lowest law enforcement priority measures with cannabis. And we pulled the new page, Chip.
You wrote a new page.
New page straight out of Denver's sanctuary city law. So Denver has a law that prohibits the city from spending any money on enforcing federal immigration laws. We thought, you know what? This is a great template for a psilocybin law if we didn't want the city of Denver to spend any money on psilocybin enforcement. And so that's what we have, is we have really a three-part law where it's the lowest law enforcement priority measure. The city is banned from spending any money to enforce the state law. And then there's a committee, an oversight review committee to make sure people are tripping safe. And to make sure the policy works. The real part of it is like to make sure the actual policies work. But that's what we did. So it's a long-winded way of saying, Chip, it's still illegal, but it's not as illegal as it was before. But it's still a crime under state law, still a crime under federal law. But the city of Denver, it's the lowest law enforcement priority for law enforcement to go after someone who's personally possessing or propagating psilocybin.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, let me ask you this question. So two questions. One, if I'm downtown Denver and it was just a Sector 9 show and I just walked out and I am a tripping balls and I walk into the police, like, what's he going to do to me?
It depends, Chip, if you're also smoking a giant spliff outside at the same time.
I probably will be. No, okay. Say I left the spliff at home. Okay, tonight, just this night.
That's impossible. But assuming we're in a world where that could exist.
Wait a second, we're talking reality here, man.
And you're outside the SCS9 show and you don't have a joint in your hand. And you go to the police officer and say, "Officer, I'm tripping balls. And maybe I have some here in my hand, some mushrooms."
Uh-huh.
And yeah, wide-eyed.
You ever had any mushrooms? I've got some. Do you want some? Can I say that?
Yeah, or you're like, "Hey, can you light my joint? I don't have a lighter right now."
I've seen that happen.
So in theory, he could still like arrest you and charge you under the state
Public
law.
Intoxication or
Yeah, well, under the state law.
state law. Oh, okay. But he's
but
he's a Denver cop, so that's not going to happen. What's going to really happen?
It should be the lowest law enforcement priority. They should follow the will of the voters. We've heard rumors that they are following the will of the voters. So it should be fine until you smoke weed in public, and then they give you a ticket for smoking weed in public. But that's a fight we're also trying to overcome.
All right, Josh. Well, hey, listen, it's a great time for us to pause and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about cultivation of mushrooms. Hey, this is The Real Dirt with Chip and Josh Kappel. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Chip with The Real Dirt. I just want to say hi to all you guys. And hey, man, I know you're all holed up in your house. You're growing weed in your garage or your warehouse, and you're wondering how you're going to get your next shipment of soil. Well, the way you do it is you call up Cultivate Colorado or Cultivate OKC. You order that pallet of soil and whatever else you want. We'll put it on the delivery van and send it to you. It's that simple. I know in the past people have been a little hesitant of maybe ordering directly from your grow supplier to your warehouse, but hey man, things have changed. It's a different day and time, and you can do that. It's so easy. If you're a commercial customer, definitely call us up and get a commercial account. If you're a home grower, man, we can still supply every single thing you need at a will call. You just call us up. You can come right to the shop and pick it up. You don't have to go inside. You don't have to shop. You don't have to do anything but grow more weed. CultivateColorado.com, CultivateOKC.com. The Real Dirt. And we're back, Josh.
All right.
Yeah. How was that break for you?
That's great.
Usually during breaks, I ask my contestants. I ask my guests to perform, significant feats of cannabis, like taking a large 6-foot bong hit or rolling the biggest joint they can, or something like that. What's the craziest ganja Olympics type thing you've ever done, Josh? Hey, we're gonna roll a 5-pound joint,
like the ounce joint, or the ounce blunt for sure. We used to lick the blunts together because the fillies weren't wide enough, so try and see how many we could do.
5 Shita man. Yeah,
those are always good. There's
man, my friend Sean Mahinsky, he used to have this. He was my first friend in high school that had an apartment. Right, we all still in high school. We had an apartment, and he had a 6-foot bamboo bong that we made. We go over there and like just hit this 6-foot bong, but good times.
Yeah, there's a lot, the big bongs. I mean, you had to have someone else lighting them for you, you know?
Yeah, totally. You had to have someone light it for you. Absolutely. So when we last spoke, you said cultivation of mushrooms was up the lowest priority. Let's discuss that, Josh.
Yep. I mean, so it's actually, we like to use the word propagation, but it's
Propagation.
not the same thing
Okay.
as cultivation.
Different, but same.
The but the whole trick though is you're still not allowed to sell them, you know. So
But you can eat them. You can consume them. Can I give them to my friends?
yeah, you can give them to your friends. You can give them away
Okay.
too.
I mean, not me. Not me. I'm not giving them away, but you
No.
can.
I mean, it's so the prohibition is, you know, you can't actually use or display the mushrooms in public. That's one thing. So I had to do a little. I had to go back to the language.
Oh, I can't. I can't.
And
do it.
you can't go walking down the street with them. So you can give them away.
You can't sell them for money, but you can give them away.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Totally.
And that's about it. You know, it's pretty simple.
So could you trade stuff for mushrooms? It's not money.
Nah, it's like for remuneration. It's like none of this.
Okay.
Like,
No remuneration.
yeah, it's like none of it. It's like fake giving. You know, it's like,
Okay.
oh yeah, I'm giving it to you if you give me that. You know,
You're right. It's like in Massachusetts. What do they have? Like, oh, you buy a T-shirt, and I'll give you an ounce with it.
right? It's like, all right, yeah, like the early cannabis days, and they're like, yeah, we're doing $50 washing machine services. It comes with an eighth of weed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember the remuneration days in California. That's for sure.
But it seems to be going pretty good. You know, it's what's different between Denver and Oakland is interesting. Is Oakland
Oh, that's right, because Denver's not the only
entheogens, not just psilocybin mushrooms, but to ayahuasca, to mescaline, to the whole 9 yards.
Gamut. Do they say entheogens or do they actually list substances?
They say entheogen. So it's like peyote, San Pedro, ayahuasca, morning glory. Cannabis is actually kind of covered under it. Mushrooms are covered under it. But they actually ended up taking out peyote. This is like pretty interesting. The Native American Church asked for the decriminalize nature campaign, which are great folks. You know, they're really building a movement here. And they wrote, so I'm gonna do a quick plug for them, Chip. As I'll tell you this, is if you want to decriminalize psychedelics in your community, talk to Decriminalize Nature, because they will help you put it all together.
Oh, well, so in like Oklahoma, if someone was interested in decriminalizing nature, they could contact Decriminalizing Nature.
Yeah, and Decriminalize Nature, yeah, it's great. But they've removed peyote from the measure because on request of the Native American Church, because there's a peyote shortage. And so the whole thing's like, well, people who like have these steep, long traditions in using peyote and have used it, you know, as part of their sacrament for eons should probably get it first before everyone else comes in and just tries to take it just for fun.
You know, the whole world needs enlightenment. I understand it's a scarce commodity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great line. The world needs enlightenment. It's just a scarce commodity.
It's a scarce commodity, which is why we smoke joints.
Smoke joints. So, all right. So back to Oakland. So Oakland's listed cannabis as an ethnogen. Man, you know, I've been thinking about this, and I'm kind of serious. I'm kind of joking. Do you think I could be a cannabis shaman?
Yeah, I do, Chip. I do. I think you know, there's some interesting folks. There's actually a lot going on in cannabis therapies.
Oh, dude, it's. I mean, I finally grew up by smoking weed a couple years ago. I finally got out of my childhood. No, cannabis is therapy, man. I mean, that's a whole part about you know why it's medical. right?
And there's, you know, and it's like there's a lot that's, you know, happening with like this group Medicinal Mindfulness was doing these cannabis
Mm,
circles, like
mm.
similar to like an ayahuasca circle. There's a lot that's like happening, you know, with cannabis as you know, a therapeutic or religious substance for sure.
Cannabis
Uh,
is medicine, man.
mhm.
Yeah, it's true. You know, the most beautiful thing about cannabis is you like got two or three of your friends and you're smoking out and like, you know, your heart all starts beating the same, you're all breathing the same air, you like on the same wavelength, the same wave. And, you know, it's easy to communicate that way.
It
And
is.
you know, I don't know how many times I've been like, all right, we're having a difficult time. Let's go smoke a joint. Right. And, you know, whoever's involved, everybody like smokes out, you calm down a little bit. Like, okay, fish sticks aren't that bad after all, or whatever the argument is.
Or even like back when we used to meet new people still, when you met someone for the first time, it's like, all right, well, if we smoke together, everything will be fine. You know,
Yeah.
it's like such a gatekeeper of good people.
Mm-hmm.
The what's super interesting though about mushrooms is that it's also like kind of legal to get mushroom spores. It's kind of, you know, it's interesting. So it's
Kind of legal, like. So okay, so we've talked about this. We've researched it a minute, and I once told you, hey, I think Georgia and California are the only place you can't buy spores. Is that true?
yeah. So taking a step back, it's
Okay.
like it all starts in 1971 with the UN Convention on UN Single Convention on Narcotics, and they made
Mm.
psilocybin illegal, but they didn't make mushrooms containing psilocybin to be used, or they didn't make spores that led to mushrooms containing psilocybin to be legal. So it's legal to possess spores of mushrooms provided they didn't have any psilocybin in it. And because there's like 400 varieties of mushrooms that make psilocybin, so it's like you don't even know which one you're working with. And so they sort of just copied that language in most states and in the U.S. So spores aren't technically illegal in a lot of places. They're not specifically prohibited, except for California, Georgia, or if there's like a clear intent to use them to grow mushrooms. But that's where things get a little bit dicey.
Mm.
The Spanish had this phrase called illegal, like in between legal and illegal.
Oh, I
and,
love it. I love it.
and that's kind of where the spores live. It's like kind of in the illegal space.
Hey. So it's maybe legal to possess spores in many states. In Denver, in Oakland, you can grow mushrooms, propagate mushrooms, and you can consume them. Are there other communities where you can do this? Because
And
I'd heard like Eugene or Portland or somebody like that was trying to do it too.
yeah, there's been a lot of communities who have been working, to try and decriminalize entheogens and mushrooms. Depending on where you count them, there's could be hundreds, of people who are
Yeah,
working.
right.
We saw one in Santa Cruz. We see some work in Berkeley. Um, there's a push in Chicago. There's been a lot of movement to sort of follow suit. And like I mentioned earlier, my technical lawyer is like, it's not legal to grow mushrooms in Denver. It's just the lowest law enforcement priority, and the police are prohibited from spending money
Mhm.
on arresting you.
And so is that decriminalized?
Yeah, it's like it's as decriminalized as it could be for a city, but it's still a crime at the state level.
Right. So basically, it gives the local law enforcement a way out of not dealing with mushroom crimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
not
they don't
that.
have to. And there wasn't that many arrests before, but
Yeah, that's the whole beauty of it. There wasn't a problem with it before, and you're just like sticking your toe in a little bit with like, hey, lowest priority. Okay, so medical mushrooms. When's medical mushrooms next, Josh? Because that's the next thing, right?
well, it's interesting.
Medically prescribed mushrooms.
Well, well, it's like there's actually been a lot of really successful research coming out of John Hopkins and the Hefner
Mhm.
Institute and Ursona that are saying,
Oh yeah, man.
that are finding
Yeah.
that psilocybin has been effective in treating treatment-resistant depression and also addiction. Amongst a whole other host of different ailments. So it's there's such incredible breakthroughs happening. So the FDA actually gave breakthrough drug status to psilocybin for the
Well,
treatment of depression. There's two groups. Compass is one. They're
because
actually
whenever you eat mushrooms, you laugh, and laughter is known to get rid of depression.
exactly. If you laugh until your cheeks hurt, the chances of being depressed are really, really difficult.
We're making light
Yeah.
of it, but if you've never experienced mushrooms, or you're like questioning what we're talking about, man, it really does give you an introspective into things that you might not have seen that exactly the same way. And used properly, mushrooms are incredibly therapeutic. That is 100% for sure.
I think that's right. And they're so powerful with the mind that they have the ability to sort of break habits apart. And that's what I saw. So it's Compass and this nonprofit Usona, both have got, breakthrough status from the FDA to engage in clinical studies for the treatment resistant depression. It's really phenomenal. There's a study, I might slightly misquote the numbers, where it was 60% of the people who use psilocybin to treat addiction quit smoking 6 months later.
Oh wow.
And like the Chantix is the highest like smoking, I guess that is the most successful anti-addiction drug for smoking. And it comes in like 38%. And obviously, psilocybin, or I don't know how many treatments it wasn't that many. And it's like 60% 6 months later.
Wow. Well, there you have it. If you want to quit smoking cigarettes, you're going to have to once monthly have a psychedelic experience with some mushrooms for 6 months, and you'll quit.
I don't know if that was exactly the protocol, but
No, I mean, mushrooms are just so fun. It's hard not to joke about them, and have a good time with it. But it is really serious, and I know, many people that have fought for the laws, and like yourself, it is a serious situation. And mushrooms are like really incredible and therapeutic, uh, natural medicine, very similar to cannabis, very mild, and
and they grow everywhere.
they grow
They're
everywhere.
all over the place. Well, one you should really. Have you watched Fantastic Fungi, Paul Stamets movie?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's a good one about the mycelia connecting our whole world together, which it makes
Oh
sense
yeah.
though, because it's like mushrooms are like such a consciousness expander. So you dive into your
Mhm.
consciousness in ways that not many other drugs really get you or get you, or at least not
Well,
like
man, I
that.
know. I know, man. Hell, man, I think I'm gonna hang up this podcast right now and go eat some mushrooms.
Yeah. And
No,
then there's the
actually, I'm
whole
not. I'm not gonna do it right
microdosing
now.
tip.
Yeah, I think microdosing is a really great way to expose people to psychedelics a little bit at a time, because they can. It's kind of like CBD, right? Like, oh, I can try weed without getting high. Oh, I can try mushrooms without getting high. But then they like get a little high, and they're like, well, maybe I want some weed. I think I could use a full dose.
Yeah. Maybe just a little bit, a couple times
Right.
a week.
So mostly the past, I grew up with mushrooms, like I said, picking mushrooms, and we'd make mushroom tea, right? Fresh mushrooms, you boil up tea. And then it began, dried mushrooms. And then, man, it turned into, mushroom chocolates. Chocolates that had extracted mushroom, or, ground up powdered, whole plant material. And now there's extracts of mushrooms, mushroom goo, mushroom paste. Things are really progressing and changing quickly. Have you been talking to anybody on on that front of where they think mushrooms might go for the consumer?
Good question. Good question. We have come across a couple different people who, have been wanting to explore different mushroom related brands. The difficulty being is that, it's like right now there's no state protections. There's no state law protections. I think, if this measure in Oregon that would decriminalize and legalize like the medicinal use of mushrooms passes, then I think we'll actually start to see, companies start to create mushrooms into a CPG product. And you do see some, like there's like in Venice and Golden Dolores Park, you see some like, some branded mushroom chocolate products for sure.
Oh
But
man,
they're
this
just
is
not
going to
legal
change
yet.
the world. This has a potential to change the world. And I saw California and Denver do that. California and Colorado do this with medical cannabis, and the medical cannabis just seeped in through all the whole medical cannabis community across the world, and the knowledge and the expertise and the technique and the strains. Wow, we are just fixing to see so much cool stuff with mushrooms. The same stuff we saw with ganja, right? The past 20, 25 years is going to happen with mushrooms now,
I
right?
know,
There's going to be
just
so many cool ways to ingest it and the strains, and they're like, oh, the research, oh, it's going to be so cool.
yeah. I mean, it's it's like it's super interesting. If if you mentioned mushroom tea, if, like I've been waiting for someone to like bottle mushroom tea.
Oh yeah,
Like
totally.
no one stepped into that world yet. Or what the other thing you hear some of along the microdosing lines is sort of these like biohacking flow state blends that are like, hey, you want like a little
Hmm.
bit of psilocybin, you want a little bit of lion's mane, you want a little bit,
Oh
of these
yeah,
sort of like perfect like
some ginger and some adaptogens and some, man,
mhm.
total herbal cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. For your for your brain.
Yeah, no, it's true, man. Oh, it just puts a smile on my face. I remember the first time I heard about mushrooms, and here's how it went. Older kid said something like, "Oh yeah, you can eat these black mushrooms and they get you high." And I said, "Nah," and I went and looked it up at the library. I was like, well, maybe. And it was right. The library book was right. Wow, man, this is so cool. Are you?
I like how your first mushrooms though took you to the library.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, I mean, it was the original Google, right? It was original Google.
That's right. That's right. Like
It's like,
back when you had to go look things up in books.
yeah. Hey, mom, I'm gonna go walk 5 blocks and go to the library, and then look up psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. Totally. Oh, Macon, Georgia. And I asked some old hippie friends, parents, and whatnot. They kind of led me in the right direction. How'd you find out about mushrooms? People were like, "Oh, it's like mushrooms. I gotta get it. You eat it, you get a high."
um, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. And you just like, "Oh, it makes you feel good. Sure, I'll take it."
Yeah, it's like, hey, try this. Changes your consciousness, and it's like, don't mind if I do. It
Change it
was
how?
exactly, exactly. It was, I actually grew up super religious. So I was like, like once you sort of like leave religion, it's like I want to try everything they told me not to.
Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time in church myself.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. It's yeah. Man, so I mean, it's happening all over the country. You got any predictions for shrooms here in the U.S.?
I think what's also happening too, before I go for my US predictions, we gotta take a step bigger. We gotta go higher up into the clouds. The is there's other countries, so it's like there's a lot of sort of
Oh yeah, like Thailand,
or Jamaica.
Colombia,
There's these
Jamaica.
psilocybin like professional retreats in Jamaica, and so there's a lot that's sort of happening on like the grand, international scale as it comes to, developing psilocybin and the freedom to use mushrooms, and you saw it too. It's like, it's like Amsterdam has had smart shops forever. They ended up though walking it back, so you can only really buy the truffles. The truffles are still great though. There's a time when I was in Spain and they had some smart shops there, and they got these wet mushrooms. And the only problem with wet mushrooms is that you have to keep them refrigerated, otherwise they go really bad. And
black mushrooms.
Yeah, it turned into like, well, we wanted to eat the mushrooms anyways, but it was a little. And we had to chase them with whiskey, and then we ended up at this carnival and island community in Spain. It's the darkest carnival in the dark. Anyways, there's beautiful trips though too.
Hey, doors of perception, brah, they're all around us.
But I think, I think what we'll see, prediction wise, I think we'll see more communities sort of loosen the prohibition on nature, on the entheogens, on the mushrooms. I think we'll see, Oregon or another state like that pass a statewide measure that will really, provide a lot of protection. It's like how, it's like when we talk about like the legalization of drugs, it's like most arrests are state arrests. So you really need to change state law. I mean, you need to change federal law too, but we haven't even got there yet for cannabis. So, we'll put that aside. I think we'll see, like you're seeing Compass, you're seeing, USODA develop psychedelic pharmaceuticals. I think that's going to be a big push forward. Even MAPS, is taking MDMA through, through different studies. And so I think you'll see it like more and more accepted. And I think there's also a lot of like pushback though. There's a lot of folks that say like, nah, like let's not patent or protect psilocybin. That's like trying to patent weed, it's like everyone should be able to grow it and use it. What does this actually look like, And so, I think there's still a lot of like controversy around it all. There's also a lot of, I think there's a lot around therapeutic protocols and like the ethics of psilocybin therapy.
Sure.
But I think we'll develop it all. I think it's like, we'll get there.
Man, I think that the self-help group is going to take a really big push in this. And, self-help at home therapy, i.e., groups of people that do entheogens or i.e. mushrooms are going to start to spring up. There's a community that's already there associated with this. People already want it. So I know that's already happening, and that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, they're almost like churches or Tupperware party type of things, and it's, some of it might be more fun. Others might be more therapeutic, but there's already these things that exist throughout the country. That's going to keep growing. Meanwhile, access is going to increase because the communities in Colorado and California are really going to start to propagate mushrooms. Right. The propagation technology is just, it's going to like expand by leaps and bounds. More brains are going to get involved, just like what happened to cannabis. All the same techniques are there, and there's just people and be like, oh, we'll do it this way. Oh, we'll do it this way. Oh, we'll do it this way. And all of a sudden, 10, 15 years later, we're going to have specialized propagation equipment specifically for mushrooms. The spores, the strains are going to be like really endless, just like ganja is right now. And man, even those places that don't legalize or decriminalize mushrooms or have medicinal mushrooms are going to be flooded, because, man, I don't know if you've ever grown mushrooms. They just keep on growing and keep on propagating themselves. And that's what's going to happen in California and in Colorado.
Yeah, I see it. And there's so many varieties of mushrooms. They'll be like, hey, these mushrooms are for your nootropics, make your brain smarter. And these mushrooms are to go on this crazy VR experience, or, go lay in the park with these ones. It'll be interesting, the indicas and sativas of mushrooms.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, it's exciting. You know, I was looking up mushrooms recently to grow and just to see which ones were the most like popular or the and what I found out was the golden teachers, the island coast, those were all mushrooms that came from Georgia or on the coast there in South Carolina, like all right where I was from. And I was picking these mushrooms as a kid, the same varieties, and I look at them in books now and I can see it. And man, it's just amazing that those have now become like, you know, some of the most predominantly grown mushrooms in the country and the world. And just out of this small little, you know, ecosystem. And now that it's so much bigger, it's just, oh, strains and varieties of mushrooms are just going to, oh, dude, it's just going to blossom. It's going to blossom,
Blossom all
blossom,
over the place.
blossom, blossom. Oh, Josh, this has been an awesome real dirt on shrooms. Oh, it's been great. Man, I know we're going to have a ton of questions about this one. People are going to ask a lot more. I'm probably going to have a round two. You know, and I've got some really great guys over at Monster Mushrooms, Monster Mushroom Grow Kits. We sell those there at Cultivate Colorado. If anybody wants a mushroom grow kit, look up cultivatecolorado.com or look up cultivateokc.com and you can buy a mushroom grow kit online right now. Boom. Even you, Josh. Even you.
I thought you were sold out.
Oh, I'm sold out today, but not tomorrow. Oh, this is great.
I do wonder if I mean, now's the time to grow everything. You're stuck at home. My only
Now's the time to
question,
grow everything. Stuck at
you know,
home.
do you think more people? Do you think more people are eating psychedelics at home now with COVID or less?
Oh, I think there's more psychedelic use right now. Because you're like, there's like no better time. I was like, you're just sitting home. It's sitting in the freezer
Yeah,
talking to us. It wants to
like
come
I
out of the
got 12
freezer.
hours, you know.
Right. We got some time to kill. I mean, I think maybe psychedelics help prevent the COVID. I think it does. I mean, you know, another claim by Chip. Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't.
Not evaluated by the FDA.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I do think probably some people are a little scared of taking psychedelics right now during the COVIDs.
It's dark
But
out there,
you know, it's
man.
dark out there. But then, you know, man, that's the thing about psychedelics is they do show you the light. And, you know, as the Grateful Dead saying over and over again, you know, you get shown the light in the craziest places if you look at it right. And, you know, that's what psychedelics do.
Yeah. Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, that's right. Josh, it's been great. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, if you guys like this episode or you want to listen to others, download them at the Real Dirt Podcast on iTunes. And hey, if you're looking at this video right now, you might be looking at it on YouTube. But if you're not, go to my YouTube channel, The Real Dirt Podcast, and look up all of the videos that we have and the interviews we have. Now, hey, there's 2 channels. I can't get rid of one, but log on to the one, subscribe to the one that has all the videos, all the most current stuff, and you know, we'll keep you up to date. Thank you again for joining me here on The Real Dirt. It has been a pleasure, and yeah, I hope to hear from you soon. Real Dirt.